Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back. And today I am really excited because I'm talking with my new friend, AJ Parr. Hello, AJ.
Hi, how are you, Sharon? How are
Good,
you
good.
doing?
I'm doing great, great. And you are coming from Colombia, correct? Yeah, you have.
Yes, I'm presently living in Colombia. I am from Venezuela, though.
Okay,
Uh,
okay. Yeah, AJ is the author of 20 books on spirituality, and I'm really honored to have you on my show. Thank you so much. And I'm
Thank
actually
you.
reading his latest about NDEs, and I'm really enjoying it. It's I love the way the format you've put it in with different types of experiences together as you're sharing people's experiences. I love that format.
Yes, well, the book is called Stairway to Heaven, 25 Near-Death Experiences about Encounters with God, Jesus, and Paradise.
Nice.
It's a journalistic research on real cases, and I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you're reading it now, right?
I
That's what you
am.
said.
I'm reading it now. Yes. And so if you could, AJ, if you could share a little bit about your journey into what got you writing books, and I know you've had some of your own experiences, if you don't mind sharing that.
Yes, I don't mind at all. This book is like the first book of a new series I'm starting. But before that, in 2014, which is 9 years ago, I started a series that now has 12 books, which is called the Secret of Now series. In that series, I basically talk about different religions and how these different religions share the same common roots, which is something that a lot of mystical and spiritual teachers have said for a long time. You know that is basically what this new age is about. We are finally seeing all religions as one and one spiritual teaching behind them all, and we are also realizing that organized religion is is one thing and spirituality is another. So I had a unitive experience or a oneness experience when I was 18 years old, meditating. I was young and I had that experience. And I also had different experiences when I was young, and I didn't realize that not many people had them. One of them, when I was a kid, when I was around 6 and 7 years old, I started having these nightmares. And I learned to recognize that I was dreaming when I
Hmm.
had these nightmares, and I realized I could wake up. So this was like lucid dreaming. I recently, the last decade or two, I found out that this is called lucid dreaming. But I could, sometimes I could change my dreams this was like 7 years old. I could change my
Nice.
dreams, but I mostly used it to wake up. So when I was around 17, I learned how to meditate. And I would sometimes get into these trances in which I was like, in the middle of a meditation, I would be like dreaming. I was somewhere else. This happens to a lot of people who meditate, I guess.
Hmm.
So in one of these times that I was meditating, I had this oneness experience, which was basically feeling one with all, and it was pretty intense and I liked it. But I went on with my life and I continued, you know, meditating, reading about spirituality, but mostly I went to school, went on with my life, got married and all that. I did have a spiritual search. I did join different organizations. I learned transcendental meditation, uh, which was originally taught by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi.
Hmm.
And I also learned from different schools. I, I even followed the Hermetic schools, Hermetism. It, so I joined the Freemasons. I was when I was around 28, 29, I joined the Freemasons, and I started this quest because I wanted to contact these invisible masters
Right.
that I knew existed, and with whom I had certain contact. But I was really interested in having a bigger contact. I knew about the White Brotherhood back then. This was over 30 years ago. So I wanted to contact them. And I knew that behind all the esoteric schools, there was the invisible school of ascended masters. So I had different trials in dreams and all that. I had a lot of experiences. But when I turned 33, I said, okay, this is it. This is the year when I'm gonna, make my final contact. I will be enlightened. I will reach self-realization, whatever. So I had all these expectations, and I was still a Freemason. But when I turned 34, I said, hey, wait, nothing happened. Things happened, but I said, I'm turning 34, and my principle was that if Jesus only lived 33 years and he achieved all that he achieved, my deadline was 33. So since I did not have anything that was extraordinary, I told God, okay, God, this is it. I'm not going to continue as a Freemason. I'm not going to continue looking for you. I'm not going to continue in my quest. Once I did, in a dream, in one of my lucid dreams, I did try to contact these masters and all that, and I did. Sometimes I did. Once I asked in my dream if I could see God, and all of a sudden I was outside in the dream, and it got really dark. There were a lot of thunders, and an earthquake started. So I got really scared, and I said, no, I don't want it. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want it. So I got on my knees and said, no, please don't come. So I had those experiences. But when I turned 34, and I said, forget it, God, I'm not going to look for you anymore, after having all these contacts that I thought everybody did, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks after this, after my birthday, exactly like 20 days after, I woke up in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning, more or less, and it was completely dark. I tried to look at my hands, and I could not see them. I could not see anything. So it got scary, because I said, okay, I'm here, but who's in the darkness? There could be someone else. All of a sudden, I realized that it could be a dream. So I concentrated, and I woke up. I said, hey, this is weird. Okay, so the next night, I woke up again around 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was completely dark. I tried to see my hands. I could not. And this time I stayed a little bit longer, but the longer I stayed, the scarier it got, because my imagination, when it's like when you're a kid and you go to a dark room, or you have to cross a dark hall to get to the other side, you imagine that there's, that something could be there. So
even as an adult.
Yeah, okay, even as an adult. So what scares you is your imagination. You imagining that something could happen. So I stayed there, and I said, okay, there could be. I could probably feel it. I don't know if I feel it or not, but there could be something there. So I got scared, and I left again that second night. I didn't understand what was going on, but this went on for the third night, and it was the last time this happened. This had never happened to me before, and it never happened after. The third night, I woke up in this darkness. I remembered I had been there before. I remembered I could wake up and leave the place. It didn't look like a dream. It looked real. But I started to get scared, and I realized that it could be my imagination, but it was hard to handle. So when I decided to leave, I heard a voice telling me, take it easy. All is one. since I had already had my oneness experience, and I knew that all is one, I understood then that the one who was talking to me was myself, because if all is one, then he is me. Then he is me, or I. We are all the same. So
yes.
I decided to trust that feeling, that gut feeling that I got, that everything was one. I said, okay, all is one, and I started feeling that the sensation of fear that I had in my chest, which can be described more or less like an emptiness in your chest. It's also felt when you're riding in a car and you go over a bump. You feel that sensation also when you are surprised. Okay, so that sensation in the chest, which is empty, it's a feeling of emptiness that grows. That continued growing and growing and growing and growing, and I trusted, and it grew and it grew, and I trusted up until, wow, I was not there anymore. I was in a place where I could look up, down, to the right, to the left, to all directions at the same time. It was like the middle of a star or the middle of the sun. I could see rays of light emanating from where I was, and I could not see my body. I could not even think. I was there, but it wasn't me. But I was there. So this is hard to explain. So each ray of light, I was aware of each ray of light, and each ray of light extended infinitely
Nice.
in the distance. And I could see that between one ray of light and the other ray of light, there was emptiness. So everything was full, but at the same time, it was empty. So I don't know how, but all of a sudden, I was back in my bed, and I said, wow, where was I? I was really, surprised and scared. And I said, wait, I felt that I was everything. I still had that feeling. I could feel it. So I got up and I went against the wall, and I pushed with my hand against the wall, and I could feel I was the person pressing against the wall, but I was also the wall pressing back. I could feel myself in both places. And for around 2 weeks, I could feel that I was all. It started as the days passed, this grew
It would
less
dissipate.
strong. Yeah. It dissipated. I don't know how long it took.
Yeah.
But after that, I realized that was first of all, I wanted more, but since I did get more, I realized that is the basic teaching of all religions, all is one. And I also realized that this other dimension is so different and so ineffable. That's the word. You cannot describe it. You cannot imagine it. You can remember it vaguely.
Yeah.
But it's mentioned in all the religions. So I started putting two and two together, and I started studying and working on a comparative study of religion. I started comparing all religions, and I could read the scriptures and see where they were talking about this secret knowledge that all is one. So during the first days, I realized that I had stumbled upon something really important, and I said, "Wow, I'm going to write a book." But this was in the first 2 weeks, the first week and a half. I said, I must write a book. And I was getting all these inspirations and downloads,
Yeah.
I was writing, I was like improvising, writing things and explanations. So I said, no, I'm going to write a book. So one day when I was writing, I heard or felt a question from above. It said, why? And I knew he was asking me, why are you seeking the higher knowledge? Why do you want this knowledge? And when he said why, he had not reached the I when from my heart or from my body came the answer to write a book. So why to write a book? The answer came at the same time. And I felt so embarrassed because you cannot seek higher knowledge or spirituality with a materialistic interest.
You have to share it.
No. First, you have to gain the knowledge. Why do you want to gain the knowledge? Because I want to know, because I want to become a better person, because I want to be
I see what you're saying.
Complete my mission, because I want to be better. But it can't be to write a book, because that cannot be your main interest.
But isn't writing a book sharing the knowledge?
Right then, I was so confused and I felt so embarrassed that I practically swore, or I made this decision. I said, okay, I will never write a book. I said, I will never write a book. And I did not write. I was a writer. I already wrote books, but I never wrote a book. And to this day, I have never written a book that contains my experiences. I will, but only recently I started talking about it, okay? Mm-hmm. So I kept this to myself, and around 9 years ago, I started writing. I studied so much and I learned so much about different religions that I said, okay, I'm not going to write about my experience, but I am going to start writing books about religions, about different religions, okay? And I'm not gonna talk about my theories. I'm gonna talk about the theories of Krishnamurti, Eckhart Tolle, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, more or less, Ramana Maharshi, all the great spiritual masters who have touched the same truth. Mm-hmm. Because they all have. Jesus did, Buddha did. So I could write books about any religion, and I could make sense of a lot of things that I did not understand when I was younger. Gotcha. So I started writing these books, and I thought my books would be welcome by the spiritual community. But whenever if I wrote a book about Buddhism and I showed it to a Buddhist, he would say, yes, but you're not a Buddhist. You also wrote a book about Hinduism, and you also wrote a book about Christianity. No, if you want, you have to become a Buddhist to find the real truth. They always. So, I wrote these books and I published them. Yes, they sold and everything. But I was still like isolated. I was still like a hermit spiritually. I continued writing, and like 4 years ago, I met a Spanish author who became my friend, and we also worked together, and we did some projects together. But she had a near-death experience. Okay, so when I talked to her, we became friends, and when we talked about spirituality, she was the first person in my life that said, I had a 360-degree vision. I could see in all directions at the same time. And I said, wait a minute. And I saw the light too. I felt this light that was one, So for the first time, I said, hey, wait a minute. My experience has to do with her experience. But I did not know. I had seen the movie Life After Life in the 70s, and I knew more or less what NDEs were. But I decided to take a closer look. So I started, researching. And finally, I decided to interview people because I wanted to have like the direct contact with people who have had near-death experiences like you, Sharon. So after I interviewed 25, my first 25 near-death experiencers, I noted that 15 of them had either had a contact with Jesus or with God, or they had gone to a place they called heaven. So I said, okay, I'm gonna see what are the common elements among these 15. I know it's not a scientific project, it's not a scientific research or study, but let's take a look at the common elements, I told myself. So I got all the interviews together, and I transcribed them, and I put them all in one Word document, okay? And I wrote Jesus. And then that way I could find out quickly how many and which ones talked about Jesus, okay? Mm-hmm. Two of them actually talked about, when they talked about heaven, two of them referred to heaven as the lobby of heaven. So among these 9 common elements, I would like to mention some of them. The first and the most common is meeting the light. This is also a common element mentioned by all the main researchers, like Raymond Moody, and it is an element that is present basically in a large number of NDEs. There are some other elements that I did not consider in this research, which are out-of-body experiences. Many people have a near-death experience and they first leave their body. They can see, if they are in a hospital, they can see the doctors working on them. But that is not mystical or spiritual. So those are like normal elements of an NDE that don't really have to do with spiritual factors or elements. So I did not consider the out-of-body experience or the tunnel. Mm. Going through a tunnel is also something that we normally see, and that Raymond Moody and other researchers have highlighted. But I did not consider those. I did consider the light, which was experienced by all of them. I also, another element is hearing God's voice. This element was not present in all of the people I interviewed, but in 4 or 5 it was present, and it was really interesting. Another common element is visiting the entrance of heaven, because they are not allowed to go beyond certain part. These people who do admit having gone to heaven, they say they have to decide if they want to come back or if they want to stay. If they decide to stay, then they can go further into this other dimension or this other world. Mm. But most of the times they only reach this part. And in several cases, they are told, no, it's not your time. So there was in one case, this person died and he went to heaven, and he actually saw a guy who looked more or less like Santa Claus with a long beard, and he had a book in his hand. So
I just read about that one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the book was also present in 2 of the persons I interviewed, and I learned later also read some of the NDE files